Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I hope you are doing well. This is Muhammad Imran. You are all welcome to my channel. We will discuss today rhythm and meter in English poetry. In fact, the topic is very interesting and very important because analyzing a poem is not an easy task. So, whenever you analyze a poem, you have to look at the different aspects of a poem. For example, the structure, the context, the theme, the tone, figure of speech. So these all aspects are not as hard to be analyzed as to analyze rhythm and meter and to find out rhythm and meter in a line of poetry. So let's discuss what is rhythm and what is meter and how many types of meters are there. So let's discuss in detail. I hope you'll enjoy this lecture and you will learn a lot from this lecture. So keep watching. Before we start our lecture, we should know what are the main aims of this session. So the first aim is to define and understand the concept of rhythm and meter in English poetry. Our second objective is to understand the basic metrical compositions or structure in English poetry. While the third and the last aim is to understand different type of metrical foot use in poetry. Rhythm and meter. Rhythm may be defined as a pattern of recurring stresses and pauses. So what does recurring mean? Recurring means that something that happens again and again or the repetition of something. So when in a line of poetry stress and unstressed syllable are repeated again and again, so this repetition of unstressed and stressed syllable form a rhythm. So this is called in rhythm. Rhythm can also be defined as a swing or a movement that comes to our ear or we hear when we read a line of poetry. So then what is meter? Meter, in most poetry written in English, the beat comes out of a pattern of stress and unstressed syllable. This basic pattern is called meter. So it means that when we organize the stress and unstressed syllable in a line of poetry, this pattern is called as meter. So the meter is the organization of the stress and unstressed syllable in a line of poetry. Or in other words, meter also mean that the measurement of something. So we measure that how many syllable are there, how many stressed syllable are there, how many unstressed syllable are there. And then we organize that what is the organization of these stress or unstressed syllable, or in what pattern these stress and unstressed syllable are used in a rhythm. Sometimes we may have rhythm that formally we call iambic rhythm, or sometimes we may have a rhythm what we call trochee rhythm. Sometimes we may have a rhythm that what we call anapest rhythm. So when we organize these all stress and unstressed syllable in a line of poetry, we call it meter. Then how can we differentiate rhythm from meter? So rhythm is simply the stress and unstressed syllable in a line of poetry. Or you can call it a swing or a movement that we hear in a line of poetry. Then what is meter? In a meter, we organize the stress and unstressed syllable. We measure that how many feet are used in a line of poetry. Then what is foot? Foot is the basic unit in a line of poetry. Sometimes we may have 2 feet, sometimes we may have 4 feet, sometimes we may have 6 feet, sometimes we may have 8 feet, sometimes we may have 10 feet, sometimes we may have 12 feet. So we can sum up that a rhythm is a recurring stressed and unstressed syllable in a line of poetry. And a meter is a regular arrangement of the syllable according to the number and type of beats in a line of poetry. So, on the one hand, we have recurring stressed and unstressed syllable in a line of poetry. That is called rhythm. And on the other hand, a regular arrangement of these syllables according to the number and type of beats. By beats we mean stressed and unstressed syllable. That how many stressed and how many unstressed syllable are there. So then the regular arrangement of syllable according to the number, how many are there, and the type of beats used in a line of poetry is called a meter. Here we have some more explanation to rhythm and meter, and I hope that you will be in a better position to understand it now. Now, rhythm occurs in a natural speech. It is the swing or sense of movement that the ear hears when successive syllables are stressed or unstressed. So the word successive means that there will be the repetition of stressed and unstressed syllable. Recurring stressed and unstressed syllable. So a kind of swing or beat will come to your ear and you will hear. So the successive repetition or the successive use of stressed and unstressed syllable in a line of poetry is called rhythm. On the other hand, we have meter. Most poetry has very strong rhythm because the poet writes into a poem a pattern of strongly stressed syllable alternating with a pattern of unstressed syllable. On the other hand, we have meter. Most poetry has very strong rhythm because the poet writes into a poem a pattern of strongly stressed syllable alternating with a pattern of unstressed syllable. Such a pattern is called meter. So when you organize the stressed and unstressed syllable in a line of poetry according to the number and type of beats, such pattern is called then meter. So this is the difference between rhythm and meter. Now, here is a question. Do all poems have meters? Not at all. Let's discuss it. Not all poems have meters, but that does not mean they lack rhythm. So even if a poem does not have a meter, still it will have a rhythm. So a rhythm is the soul of a poem. So you may not have a meter, because the meter may be irregular, right? So you may not have a proper meter, but you will have a rhythm in a poem. So not all poems have meters, but that does not mean they lack rhythm. In a non-metrical poetry, rhythm is irregular. As I told you, that meter will be there, but it will be irregular. So in non-metrical poetry, rhythm is irregular and comes from the natural rise and fall of syllable. So the effect is sometimes enhanced by the repetition of words or word pattern. In these slides, we will discuss the difference between poetry and ordinary language. How reading of poetry is different from reading of ordinary language. Poetry has meter. So a pivotal criterion for the definition of words meter is most simply put an organized pattern of strong and weak syllable. So when you organize a strong and weak syllable in a line of poetry, you're doing what? You are forming a meter, or you are dealing with a meter. So key to the definition in this provision that metrical pattern should be organized and in such a way that the alternation between accentuated syllable and weak syllable is repeated. Accentuated means strong syllable and weak syllable is repeated. So this repetition into regular phrasing across a line of words is what makes rhythm. Before we discuss what is a stressed and unstressed syllable, we should know what is a syllable. So a syllable is a unit of word which must have a single vowel sound, and no matter how many consonant sounds are there. So in this unit of word, you must have a vowel sound, or this vowel sound may be accompanied by one consonant, two consonants, three consonants. So no matter how many consonants or consonant sounds are there, but you can't form a syllable without a vowel sound. So for a syllable, a vowel is a soul for the syllable formation, right? Like for example, if I say man, so in man we have two consonant and we have one vowel sound. Or if I say until, so here we have two syllable. One is un, because we have vowel a and we have consonant un. So un, and then we have another syllable till. So in till we have also one vowel sound and two consonant. So until is a word which has two units, and in each unit we have one vowel sound, and this vowel sound is accompanied by one, two, or three consonant sound. So we can again sum up that a syllable is a unit of word which must have a vowel sound and one, two, or three, or maybe more than two or three consonant sounds. Now, what is a stressed and what is unstressed now? Sometimes we have two or three syllable word. So in this two or three syllable word, one of the syllable is stressed. When we say stress, so you are giving extra force or you emphasize on one syllable, while two syllable are unstressed. So whenever we have a two or three syllable words, so in those two or three syllable words, one of the syllable will be stressed, while two or three other syllable would be unstressed. For example, we have a word until. So you can see here that in until, the first syllable is unstressed, while the second syllable till is stressed. So here we have explanation. A stress or action is a greater amount of force. So when you are giving greater amount of force to a syllable is called a stressed syllable. Given to one syllable in a speaking, then is given to another. So we favor a stressed syllable with a little more breath and emphasis, with the result that it comes out slightly louder, higher in pitch, or longer in duration than other syllable. So which one is a stressed one? We emphasize, okay, or we make emphasis, because the emphasis come because of what? That is the result of slightly louder. We pronounce it a little bit louder than other syllable, or higher in pitch compared to other syllable, or longer in duration to other syllable in a word. So this longer in duration or higher in pitch or slightly louder it differentiates this syllable from other syllable. So this syllable is getting stronger or is a stressed one, while other syllables are unstressed then. So in this manner, we place a stress on the first syllable of the word, such as eagle. Now the word eagle has two syllables. One is E and another one is gull. So eagle, the stress goes on first syllable, so we say eagle. If the stress would have gone on the second syllable, then we would pronounce it as eagle. So it is not eagle, it is eagle. Similarly, we have another word that is pronounced as impact, right? When it has also two syllables. One is im and another syllable is pact, impact. So it is not pronounced as impact. If you pronounce it as impact, so then you are stressing the second syllable. But actually here, the second syllable is not stressed. The first syllable is stressed, so we pronounce it as impact, right? Not impact, but impact. We have another word that is open. So open, we have also two syllables. One is o, while another one is pun. Open. So the stress goes on the first syllable, we say open. We don't say open. If we say open, so then we are stressing the second syllable. But actually the second syllable is not stressed. The first one is stressed, so we say open. And here we have another word, and that is pronounced as statue, not statue. We have two syllables, stray, chew. Not statue, but we say statue. So the stress goes on the first syllable and we pronounce it as statue. While in some other words like cigar, it's not pronounced as cigar. It is pronounced as cigar. So here the stress goes on the second syllable. We have two syllables. One is se and one is gar. So we pronounce it as cigar. So you see that the stress goes on the second syllable, so we say cigar rather than cigar. Similarly, we have another word that is mystique. So you see that we have again two syllables. One is miss and another one is teak. Mystique. So we don't say mystique. If we do say mystique, then you are putting the stress on the first syllable, which is wrong. So you can't say mystique, you will say mystique. Similarly, we have another word that is precise. You see, we have two syllables, pre and size. Precise. So we don't say precise. Because if you say precise, so you are stressing the first syllable. You will say precise. Precise on the second syllable. And the last word here we have that is also two syllable, until. It is not until. Most people, we hear people pronounce it as until. It's not until. You will pronounce it until because the stress goes on the second syllable. That is until, not until. If you say until, so you are stressing the first syllable. But actually the first syllable is not stressed here. You will say until, and when you say until, so you are actually stressing the second syllable, which is the exact pronunciation of until. Here we have a complete chart of the most common signs which are used in English poetry. So let's discuss. To describe meter, we use a sit-up sign that suggests how the line is to be read. Below is a list of the most common signs. So most common signs. So this is the first sign. You can see here that this sign is used to indicate a strong or stressed syllable in a line of poetry. You can see this sign. The second one is this one, and it is used for a weak or unstressed syllable. So next time when you come across with this sign, so it will indicate that a syllable is a weak or unstressed. And when you come across with this sign, so this sign will indicate that the syllable is a stressed one or it is a strong syllable. Similarly, that whenever you come across such kind of sign, it is called a bar and is used to mark metrical division in a line, and each unit thus marked is called a foot. So between each foot you will find this kind of sign. So when you find this sign, so it will indicate that, that it is 1 foot. So to divide the feet in a line of poetry, you will find this kind of sign. And this kind of sign will indicate that it is 1 foot, this is another foot, this is another foot, this is another foot. For example, you may have 2 feet, you may have 4 feet, you may have 10 feet, you may have 12 feet. And each foot will be divided with the help of this bar. And the last sign you can see here, this one, it is used to indicate, it is called kesura, and it is used to indicate a pause in a line of verse. So as we have a pause, like in sentences, when we complete a sentence, so we have also a pause in poetry. And this pause is indicated by this sign, which is technically called kesura. What is skension? The process of marking the meter is called skension. So when you, what is skension then? The process of marking meter in a line of poetry is called skension. Now to scan a line of poetry, first mark the accented mean strong syllable. So whenever you want to scan a line in a poetry, first of all, you have to identify the strong or accented syllable, which are strong or accented syllable, and then the unaccented syllable. First you have to find out what is the stressed syllable, and then you have to find out what is unstressed. This is like the process of like a marking, right? Like what to do skension or to mark stress and unstressed syllable. So whenever you are scanning a line in a poetry, so to do scan, you have to do first word, you have to mark strong syllable and then weak syllable, accented syllable and then unaccented syllable. Now followed by a bar and then come bar, foot, right? You have a line of poetry. You have to do the first thing, that to mark the accented syllable, the stressed one. The second task you have to do, you have to mark unaccented syllable. And the third task you have to do in scanning, you have to draw a bar. And the bar will indicate that 1 foot is completed. This is 1 foot, 1 unit in a line of poetry. And in this process of scanning, you will divide each line into a unit of measurement, and that is called foot. Right? This is unit of measurement. That is called a foot, consisting of 2 or 3 syllables. Now, what is a foot? A foot is a unit in a line of poetry. And in each foot, we may have 2 or 3 syllables. Right? And out of these 2 or 3 syllables, 1 will be stressed and 2 will be unstressed. Or 1 will be stressed and 1 will be unstressed. If in a foot we have 2 syllables, so 1 will be stressed and 1 will be unstressed. And if in a foot we have 3 syllables, so 1 will be stressed and 2 will be unstressed. You can see here 2 or 3 syllables, one of which is stressed And the four most common feet in English poetry are. Now, the four common feet in English poetry are. Now we will discuss what are the four most common feet in English poetry are. So we will discuss one by one in coming lecture. So keep watching and wait for the second lecture. That will be the extension of this lecture. So in the next lecture, we will discuss the four most common feet in English poetry, how they are used, how they are structured, and how to identify them. So thank you so much. This was all about this lecture, and we will have another lecture. We will start from here.